Well, welcome. It's good to have everybody here this morning. Everybody staying warm enough? I see some are still bundled up from coming in from outside. Isn't it good to be together today? I've been looking forward to being together today. It's sometimes we have different things take place in life, and it's just so good to be able to come together with fellow believers in God and in Jesus, and to share this kind of time together that we've shared, singing together, lifting Him up, and spending some time in His Word together. I had to share with the teens because we've got some classes coming up. Samantha has been teaching them while she's been home, and she's got one more week to teach in class, and I really appreciate what she's done in doing that while she's been back home, and know the teens have enjoyed that as well. But they had I'm not sure exactly who actually came up with it, but they wanted to study, and I actually got a text on it on like, what is this supposed to mean? And I had no idea at the time, but they wanted to study messed up verses of the Bible. And you think, okay, what does that mean, messed up verses of the Bible? And there are some passages, and that's where my mind went. And Remington and I were sitting at home, and I said, is this what was talked about with that? And sure enough, it was. These things that you read, and it's almost unbelievable that anybody would do those things, especially those who were calling themselves the people of God, would do some of the things or something that is said that just kind of blows you away. So I had to tell them this morning, because we're going to start those, and no, everybody else isn't welcome to come when we do it. No, I'm kidding about that. You can come if you want to. But we're going to start those classes a week from next week when I'm back in the teen class, and so we're going to start some of those. But actually, this morning could very much be one, and maybe the messed up as you can get. And so I told the teens this morning, as I went over and talked to them after class, this morning what we have to look at is not G-rated. This is coming directly from Scripture, and a few of the passages you may just have to go read yourself. I may kind of tell the story, and it's one of those things it's very serious. But it has to do with where the people of God arrived. And if you don't mind, I'm gonna get a stool and sit down for part of this, because I just want to kind of tell the story. Some of what was going on with the people of God, the Israelite people. They had entered into the land of Canaan, and you have this period of about 330 years. It's called the period of the Judges. The time in which there was no king. God was supposed to be their king. They were supposed to be looking to God as their king. But the statement is made several times throughout the book of Judges. They had no king in those days. And really, that is the way that they lived, was as if they had no king, rather than just following God as their king, and then each tribe having somewhat their own set of rules as far as amongst themselves and how they governed themselves, because there were 12 tribes. I mean, you have Abraham, and then Isaac, and then Jacob, and Jacob having 12 sons, and then you ended up, because of Joseph and his 2 sons, and the give and take that happens there, you end up having the 12 tribes of Israel. And these 12 tribes settling in the various areas, the Levites not having a specific land themselves. And this specific story that we're going to be looking at has to do with a Levite who is living in the hill country of Ephraim. And so this would have been the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, which was across the Jordan River. And so, I mean, there's a lot that can go into this story of details that we may not need to look at. But I want us to get some kind of an idea that it was somewhat like there was no central government, there was no king in Israel, and it maybe in some ways would be comparable to the 13 colonies. Operating without having a president, without having a central government, but operating somewhat where each one was a state of its own and operating in that way. Well, you have the 12 tribes of Israel, and somewhat similar to that, only, yes, very different times. I want to read those statements that are kind of scattered, at least a couple of them. In Judges 17:6, It says, in those days, Israel had no king. Everyone did as they saw fit. Now, if you're reading from the King James translation, and maybe a few other translations, it says, every man did what was right in his own eyes. Everyone did as they saw fit. And that's the reason for, if you're looking on the back of the bulletin, does it say as they see fit or as you see fit? And that's where this is coming from, is people doing as they feel what's right, as they see fit. And there was a problem with this. In Judges 21, in verse 25, Judges ends this way, and it is going to be ending with the story that we're going to be looking at. But in verse 25 it says, in those days Israel had no king. Everyone did as they saw fit. And so you kind of get the idea when it makes the mention of the fact that they had no king, of what was happening was nobody was following a set standard of rules. Everybody was doing as they saw fit. There was no certain standard of morals. There was no certain standard of how they were to live their lives. Everybody would make up within their own mind what was right, what was wrong. And so this would be right for me. I don't care if it's wrong for you. It's the right thing for me to do. And they would make their mind up in individual decisions that would come their way, and they would do as they saw fit. That is the circumstances that we enter into the story that we're going to look at. And it begins with a Levite from the hill country of Ephraim, and it says he had a concubine, and she was from Bethel in Judah. Now, concubines, and we're somewhat unclear on that, especially because even in the Word of God in this story, it talks about her and refers to her father as the man's father-in-law. So it's interesting as to what exactly was involved with concubine and wife and some of those things. Seeming to have not the full responsibilities maybe than one would with a wife, and you're already thinking, well, that's messed up right there. And it is. And it's because of the circumstances they were living in, and we're kind of coming to that a little bit later on, but it has to do with this idea of as they saw fit. And we're going to talk more about that. But in this story, here's this concubine, and it says she's unfaithful to him, and she goes back home to her parents' house. And it says that this man decides that he's going to go and get her. And so he journeys from Ephraim, across the Jordan, he journeys down to Bethel of Judah. And when he goes, her father, it says his father-in-law, invites him in and says, it's great to see you. He's very welcoming of the man. He says, come on in. And he stays there for 3 days, and he eats his food, he drinks his wine, and he sleeps there, and they visit together. And he gets up the next morning intending on leaving. And the father-in-law says, oh, don't leave now. Refresh yourself. You haven't eaten anything. Refresh yourself, and then you can go. And so he does. He eats, whether they would have called it breakfast or not or what, but he eats at the house, and so he gets about midday, and he's planning on leaving. He says, you can't leave now. It's too late. You don't want to leave at this time of day. So spend the night again. Stay the night, refresh yourself, and be merry, and spend the night. You can leave on tomorrow. He does this twice to him. And so the father-in-law is just, he's overly hospitable to the guy, and you have to wonder, it doesn't tell us, what this guy's thinking. Maybe he's thinking, if I keep him long enough, he'll just stay here, and, I can put him to work. I'll have help around the place. And I don't know what he was thinking, but he was very friendly with him, and he was sharing with him, but he keeps wanting him to stay. We've been places like that, right? You go to somebody's house and, well, just stay one more day. So you stay another day. Well, just stay tonight. You don't want to leave now. Just stay tonight. Well, the weather looks bad. You might as well stay another. And this is what the guy was doing. And so he ends up staying. And so here on the 5th day, he finally talks him into staying again that morning. He's planning on leaving. And he's got a servant with him. He's got 2 donkeys with him. And his plan is to take his concubine back home. So he's come all this way. He gets up in the morning. He does stay a little bit longer, but he says, and when he gets up to leave, the father-in-law does the same thing. He says, oh, just stay. You don't want to leave this time of day. He goes back through the same thing, and he says, no, I am leaving. And so they load the donkeys up, and his servant and his concubine and himself, and they head out. Well, it's a long journey. And sure enough, I mean, they're leaving the wrong part of the day. It's later up in the day, and they're journeying, and it's beginning to get dark. And the city that wasn't yet called Jerusalem, but Jerusalem was there, and the servant said, "Let's go there." And there was a lot of people inhabited in Jerusalem. They weren't Israelites, and the Levite says, "No, I'm not gonna stop there. We need to stop at a city of Israelites. You know, we can keep pressing on. Let's try to make it to Gibeah." And so they go on and they make it to Gibeah. Of course, it's late, and they go to the city square. Now, you know, it's not like a city that we would enter into. You know, a lot of these cities were very small. I doubt that there was any kind of inn. You know, we think of Jesus and Mary and Joseph and the inn. Of course, that's years and years later. Not that kind of place set up, you know, any place for them to stay. I mean, if they're going to stay anywhere, it's going to be because of hospitality. So they go to the city square, and they're there. They actually kind of like probably the well in the middle, and they just kind of set up camp. And nobody comes out to greet them or anything, except for this old man comes out, and he says, you know, "What are you doing?" And they said, "Well, we're traveling. We're trying to make it back home in the hill country of Ephraim. But we're just going to spend the night here. We've got hay for our donkeys. We've got water. We're fine. We don't need anything. We're fine right here." And he says, "You can come to my house. So why don't you come to my house, and that way you can be refreshed." And he says, "But whatever you do, don't spend the night out here." Automatically you think, well, maybe this isn't such a good place. But they made a special point to travel to a city of the Israelites. And so they go home with the old man. And they eat and they drink. And it says some wicked men of the city come to the door, and they start pounding on the door, and they say, "Send this guy out. You've got a stranger among us. Send this guy out." And folks, I mean, it just says, "Send him out. We want to have sex with him." And, you know, when you look at the culture, when you look at the things, I mean, of the Israelites at this point, it really doesn't fit except for, I mean, their thought of humiliation of somebody. They didn't want strangers in their land. They didn't want strangers coming to their city. Let's show this guy that we mean business. We'll humiliate him. We won't have any more strangers come in Gibeah. I mean, that very well could have been the situation of what's going on here. And the old man says, you know, "Don't do this thing. Don't do this. You know, this is not right." And they persist. They said, "You know, this is what we want." And the old man says, "You know, he's got a concubine. I've got a daughter. Let's send them out. We'll give them out to you." Messed up. Now, something is all messed up here with people's morals, with people's idea of what's right and wrong. But this is what he says. We'll send them out. And the Levite, I mean, he goes along with this and says, "You know, I'm sorry, but here you go. Push her out the door." Well, they rape her. And she ends up, I mean, this thing goes on all night long, and she comes back to the door, her hand on the doorstep, basically, on the threshold of the door. That's where she dies. Next morning, Levite gets up. That's where he finds her. He loads her on the donkey. He goes home. But what he does, he cuts her body up, 12 pieces, puts it on the donkey, and he sends it into the various tribes of Israel. Now, there has to be some kind of message. It doesn't say, you know, exactly he wrote this note and what he wrote or anything like that, how much he explained. But he sends parts of her body into all the areas of Israel. And Israel, I mean, as they receive these things, they are livid. They say nothing ever has happened like this in our land. You know, nothing's taken place like this. And so it's what gets attention. I mean, it really grabbed their attention. And so they meet together at Mizpah to find out what is this all about. So there must have been some kind of instruction. Benjamin knew that they were all going to meet there, and because Gibeah was in the tribe of Benjamin, but Benjamin didn't show up. Nobody from Benjamin showed up. But they knew that they were meeting. And so they meet there, and they said, what is this all about? What happened? How did this happen? And so he tells them the story. Here's what happened, and he goes back through the story, and he says, now what are you going to do about it? I want to hear your answer. And so they say among themselves, nobody's going home. We're not going home from here. We will assemble ourselves as an army. We're going to choose men from out of each tribe, and we're going to assemble ourselves as an army, and we're going to go take care of this with Gibeah. And so they make their way down to Gibeah. Well, and they send letters out about that this is what's going to happen. Well, Benjamin hears about it. They know what's going to happen. And so they gather themselves. The tribe of Benjamin gathers themselves around Gibeah, and they're not going to let anything happen to Gibeah, their city. And so they're going to defend them. And so everybody's making, you see all these decisions happening, everybody's making decisions here on what's going to take place. And so they get down there. And, one thing that's important to note here is the Israelites at this point, they ask God about it. They said, okay, Benjamin has surrounded Gibeah. What should we do? And they go up against them. They actually get whipped pretty bad by the Benjamites first. And they back off again, and they even offer burnt offerings to God. And they say, God, what should we do? And he says, you do it. I will deliver them. And I'm cutting the story a little bit short. It doesn't have all the details of the battle stuff going in there. But they go in. And once again, they've separated out their armies, and Benjamin comes out, but they've got others that are going to enter the city, and when they do, they start burning the city. And even though it looks like Benjamin out here against the Israelites, they turn around, and the city's in flames, fire of smoke going up, and they see that, and now they know they're trapped, and they run. They head out into the wilderness. Well, they follow them. And they continue to pursue them until 600 left. And then they turn around. Here's what Israel does at this point. Then they turn around and they start going through all the cities of Benjamin. And they start killing everybody and every animal and then burning the city. They wipe it out. They don't just stop this army of Benjamin. They wipe them out. This is like genocide happening. They just annihilate the tribe of Benjamin. And they come back before God and they say, what can we do? Not this time hearing any answer from God, but making a decision. Okay, we said, because we made a pact when we were at Mizpah, and it didn't tell us this at the first part, but later on here it does. We made a pact that none of us would give our wives to Benjamin, sons of Benjamin. And so what are we going to do now? There's 600 men left out there in the wilderness, but who are they going to marry? See, they've wiped out all the women of Benjamin. And they've all made a pact together. So they say, okay, is there anybody that didn't show up? Is there anybody out of the land of Israel, any of the cities? Did anybody not show up for this? Because we said if they didn't show up, we were going to destroy them. And sure enough, they kind of do a head count, and finally it's almost as if somebody says, is anybody from Jabesh Gilead here? Nobody raises their hand. There's nobody from Jabesh Gilead. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to Jabesh Gilead, and we are going to slaughter them. We're going to kill them, all the warriors, all the men, and all the women who have been with a man, but those who are left will have wives for these men of Benjamin, so the tribe of Benjamin can go on. Does this sound messed up? Yeah, this sounds messed up. But that's what they do. They go and they kill all the men, they kill all the women who have been with a man, and they take all these young girls in. But the thing is, there's 600 men of Benjamin, and there's only 500 girls. So now what are they going to do? Well, they've got another plan. There's this, up there at Jerusalem, or at Shiloh, there's this festival that they're going to have where they're going to send their young ladies out into the outer lying areas, and they're going to be doing a dance because of this festival. And when that happens, You 100 that didn't get wives, you come with us. We're going to hide you in the woods. And what we will do is we will tell the fathers of the daughters that are taken, that are out there dancing, we'll tell the fathers, you are not held responsible for giving your daughters because they were stolen from you. So you're not responsible for giving your daughters to the Benjamites. And so that's what they do. They hide these 100 men that didn't win the lottery and get a wife from this first leg of Jabesh Gilead, and they run out and grab themselves a young maiden and they take off. So here's now 600, 5 of them from Jabesh Gilead with their wives over their shoulders headed back toward Benjamin, and here's 100 of them coming from the people up around Shiloh carrying those men's daughters off. I mean, there's no indication that any woman is willing on this part. This is just happening. And they carry him off to go back to the burnt ruins of Benjamin and start building a life again. That's the way the book ends. It doesn't end any better than that. That's the way it ends. And when we look at this, we think, what in the world is going on? These people, and if you read through Judges, if you start at the first part of it, you read through it, they are in a pattern, and they've reached a point in that pattern that it has completely wiped out their moral compass. I mean, they would disobey, and then there would be disaster. When the disaster would hit, then they would call to God, and he would deliver them. I usually don't use, letters like that, but those 3 D's are there over and over again. Disaster, or rather the disobedience, and then the disaster would happen, and then God would deliver them over and over and over again. And we see that through these people, through generations of people, 330 years of that happening. The thing is, can't we relate to this in life, even our lifetimes as well? That when we disobey and something disastrous happens and we call to God for deliverance. I mean, we can think of instances, and some of you can think of instances in your life that where you disobeyed God and something was happening to you because of that in your life. And when that was happening, you called for deliverance from God. Whatever it may have been. It could be an addiction, it could be debt, it could be whatever, but something that we put something before God, and by doing so it brings disaster in our lives, and things are falling apart, and we don't know what we're going to do, and we call to God for deliverance. Sure enough, he delivers us. And just like we said, we're not going to do that again. At least for a month or so, right? Anybody else relate? But this is what was happening with these people. They had gotten to a point that there was no central focus, but everyone did as they saw fit. Everyone did what was right in their own eyes. And so that's where it gets to the point that we need to look at this, because we look at all these things. Let's just briefly go back through the story. From that standpoint of everybody was making in their own minds a right decision in what they felt was right. From the point of the Levite, go get his wife or his concubine. Go get her. Okay, that's the right thing to do. He goes down, and the father treats him very well, and really extremely well, and wanting him to stay, and this hospitality is overflowing, and of course he's doing what he would think was right. But they get up there to Gibeah, and they end up, the old man comes out, and this is a good decision. Come to my house, stay at my house. These wicked men come. Well, here's this Levite, and he's going to send his concubine out there among them. Probably by this time, reasoning in his mind, if your father hadn't made us stay so long to start with, we wouldn't be in this predicament. We would have been home. It's your fault anyway. And besides that, you're just a woman. Because that's what they thought. I mean, how, through this whole story, how did they treat the women? Just a possession. And so he sends her out. Right in his mind, she's the one that caused all this thing. If you hadn't run off to start with, and then your father hadn't kept us there all of this time, none of this would have happened. You go. Right decision in his mind. I mean, when he cuts her up in pieces and sends her all over the place. I mean, the people of Israel say nothing like this has ever happened in Israel before. Well, probably had. But nobody had cut pieces up of a person and sent them all 12 tribes of Israel. That hadn't happened before. It's just like, I mean, we see things today. I mean, things happen all the time, all over the world, all over the United States, but let it hit the national news. And it can be the same kind of circumstances happen day after day after day, but let it hit the national news, and nothing like this has ever happened before. But they come down, they get together, okay, we are going to take care of this, because it's got attention now. We're going to take care of this. And he lays it on the line to him. Here's what happened. What are you going to do about it? Well, they're going to go down and take care of Gibeah. That seems like the right thing to do. Let's go punish Gibeah. So they get down there, and Benjamin is all there. They're going to fight. What are we going to do? Well, let's ask God. So God says go, and they go. But they don't just take care of Gibeah then, and the men of Benjamin that are out there fighting. They keep going. And they go all the way to where they've knocked it down to 600 people. Now what are we going to do? So they make another right decision. We've got to find them wives because we can't be left without a tribe. We're the 12 tribes of Israel. We can't be the 11 tribes of Israel. It's got to be the right thing to do to find them wives. Okay, Jabesh Gilead didn't come. So it's got to be the right thing to do to go kill them so that these men can have some wives. Because what they did was wrong. They didn't come and help us, so we go kill them. Well, there's still not enough. You see, each one of these things, how they can reason, okay, this is the right thing to do. We've got to supply wives for them. We've got to make up for this. And so this is what we're going to do. Even stealing these young ladies that are coming out for a festival and dancing out in the field. With no regard for how they would feel about it. Doing what was right in their own eyes. Doing as they saw fit. So us. I mean, the application for us in circumstances where we want to live the American dream. We want to do what we want to do, when we want to do it, and whoever we want to do it with. Right? In general? Do people like to be told what to do? Do you like to be told what to do? This is my family, and so I'm going to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, with my family, together with whoever we want to do it with, and this is our business, and you take care of your family. Right? I'll take care of my family. Only we're civilized, so we add something else onto that. We want to do whatever it is we want to do, when we want to do it, whoever we want to do it with, as long as what? Nobody gets hurt. So we're not like the Israelites. We tag this on there. As long as nobody gets hurt. It's not going to happen, because whenever you do what you want to do, when you want to do it, with whoever you want to do it with, somebody is going to get hurt. When you're making all of those decisions, somebody is going to get hurt. And if it's nobody else that's going to get hurt, first of all, it's going to be you. It's going to hurt you. Because it's going to hurt relationship with God. I mean, we have so many people living in the world today that are going through hardships because their parents did what they wanted to do, when they wanted to do it, and whoever they wanted to do it with. And it hurt those kids for life, still struggling to get past that point. Still struggling to get past whatever it was that maybe a parent was addicted to, or whatever it was that the parent couldn't stay away from that took all the money that would have been back home helping to raise them, or the broken homes that are there because they were doing it with whoever they wanted to do it with, whatever they wanted to do, when they wanted to do it, and how that affected the child at home. And so when you hurt yourself doing exactly that, I mean, the same kind of things that was going on here, when you hurt yourself doing that, don't you hurt others? I mean, if you have children, it's going to hurt them. If you have a spouse who loves you, a husband or wife that loves you, and you're hurting, then they're going to be hurting too. And so we tag on this last part that is impossible. But yet we feel very civilized in tagging that last part on there. So we can do what we want to do, when we want to do it, with whoever we want to do it with. And you don't hear those who are on the other side of the equation. You don't hear judges telling people when they come before them, okay, now everything's settled, go do what you want to do, when you want to do it, and whoever you want to do it with. That'll solve everything. No. You don't hear counselors for adolescents talking to parents and saying, you need to just let them do whatever they want to do, when they want to do it, with whoever they want to do it with. You don't hear social workers for families telling parents, the best thing you can do is you just do what you want to do, when you want to do it, with whoever you want to do it with. And that'll get your kids back. No. Why? Because they've seen the damage that it does when people live that way. And we see it and we feel it whenever we live that way. And it hurts. As much as it hurt them. Everyone was doing as they saw fit. In Proverbs chapter 12, or rather 21, you guys want to come on up? You can. In verse 2, it says, a person may think that their own ways are right, but the Lord weighs the heart. To do what is right and just is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. Pretty much we all think that our own ways are right. They're not always right.